whole
it's hard.
logging onto Netflix last night to find not one, not two, but 3 episodes from the new Harry.
Pounds is going to Centre Bali. £300,000 is going to Wellness Carter, being the backbone to not just English law, British law, but American law as well. So he hit...
Imagine this. A woman gives a strong, polished speech outside the World Health Organization in Geneva, warning about the risks of putting children online. She talks about digital footprints, platform responsibility, and the duty parents have to protect their children from real online dangers. She appears serious, believable, and fully committed to every word. Then she goes home and, within hours, posts a photo of her daughter on Instagram for millions to see. The very kind of platform and digital culture she had just criticized on the world stage. One man saw the meaning in that immediately. Dickie Arbiter, the Queen's former press secretary, spent 50 years inside Buckingham Palace and was there when Harry was born. He has kept quiet for years, but now he's speaking about Archie and Lilibet in a way the Sussex camp did not expect. What he is saying could change how people view this whole story. And that matters because Arbiter is not just another royal pundit with a camera and an opinion. He is a direct witness. He lived inside the palace system for 5 decades, not outside it. He was present for moments most people never see, handled scandals that never became public, watched royal marriages break down behind closed doors while the public saw only ceremony, and managed communications for the most watched royal family in the world during some of its hardest modern years.
There was speculation that he was asking for changes. Now, we heard how true...
He was there when William was born and when Harry was born. He watched the family endure the chaos of the early 1990s and the heartbreak that came after. What matters most here is that Arbiter did not just work at the palace. He worked closely with Diana for years. He saw not only what she did in public, but what she defended in private, the battles she never advertised, and the boundaries she refused to break, even under huge pressure. When it came to William and Harry, Diana held firmly to one idea. They deserved a real childhood. Not one staged for image. Not one shaped to support a public story, but a normal one. She took them to theme parks, fast food places, restaurants, and ordinary outings where no one was meant to be watching. Even while living under constant public attention, she fought hard to protect their privacy. And she did it quietly, without announcements or carefully arranged photo moments. She just did it. That protection helped shape who William and Harry became. The warmth people saw in them as adults and their ability to connect with ordinary people came in large part from the life Diana created for them early on. Arbiter watched that happen. He understood what it cost her and what it gave her sons. So when Dickie Arbiter compares Archie and Lilibet's situation today with what he saw Diana do for William and Harry, it is not just a personal opinion. It is the view of someone who saw the difference up close.
Princess Diana. In his memoir, On Duty with the Queen, Dickie pulls back the curtain on palace life, revealing
he knows what responsibility looks like from the inside. He saw it up close in one of the most powerful and complicated women this family ever had. And after decades that put him closer than almost anyone, he knows when that responsibility is missing. There is another important voice here. Duncan Larcombe, former royal editor of The Sun. He has covered the royal family for decades and met Prince Harry personally. He is not working with Arbiter or helping build the same argument. He comes from a completely different background and perspective. Yet he reaches the same conclusion, uses the same kind of language, and gives the same overall judgment. When 2 experienced observers, coming from different places, end up saying the same thing, that is not easy to brush aside. This is why Arbiter's comments matter so much. He is a man who saw everything, stayed quiet for years, and is only now choosing to speak. Meghan Markle went to Switzerland with a message. At a World Health Organization event, she gave a polished, confident speech about keeping children safe online. She spoke about digital footprints, platform accountability, and the duty both parents and tech companies have to protect young and vulnerable people online. She has always known how to hold a room. And in Geneva, she looked exactly like the serious global advocate she has worked hard to present herself as. Whatever anyone thinks of her, that part is clear. What is less clear is whether the reality matched the image. By many credible accounts, the event was much smaller than it appeared. There were no large crowds outside, The room was not full, and the reaction within royal circles was, at best, muted. For all the careful staging, the moment did not seem to have the impact the presentation aimed to suggest.
Meghan Markle stepped out in Geneva for an important conversation but ended up getting humiliated in the process.
It raised a bigger question about how much real influence the Duchess of Sussex actually has on the world stage right now. Then she came home and, within hours, posted a new photo of her daughter Lilibet on Instagram for her 5th birthday. A 5-year-old child with no voice in the decision and no control over whether millions of strangers see part of her life. And it was posted on the very platform Meghan had just criticized in Geneva. After presenting herself that same day as a strong public voice against the dangers children face online. That timing is what made Dickie Arbiter speak. Not months earlier or years later, but after this exact sequence. And when someone with 50 years of palace experience decides something is serious enough to break his silence, there is usually a reason. There is also a major point Meghan's team seems to have missed. Child safety experts do not treat the online sharing of children's images lightly, and their view on this kind of post is especially notable. They say partial reveals, teasing photos, limited views, or images that hint at a child without fully showing them can sometimes draw even more harmful attention than fully open posting. The mystery does not protect the child. For certain obsessive viewers, it can actually increase curiosity and invite the kind of attention no parent should want. That is what makes this more than a simple contradiction. Meghan went to Geneva to warn about online risks to children, then used a posting style for her own child that experts say may create its own dangers. That cuts to the heart of the entire message behind the trip.
Catered to cyberbullying. In their first public appearance since their near-catastrophic car chase in New York.
Was it a mistake? A split-second parenting choice? Or something more deliberate? People who have followed Meghan Markle closely for years often say very little she does in public happens by accident. Dickie Arbiter has a clear answer, and it is not flattering. When the Instagram posts became a public issue, Meghan did not ignore it. A spokesperson gave Newsweek a carefully worded defense. The claim was that by hiding her children's faces, Meghan was not going against her Geneva message. She was putting it into practice by protecting their privacy, giving them some agency and still sharing parts of her life. In that version, it was not hypocrisy. It was proof she meant what she said. Arbiter rejects that completely. His verdict is simple: rank hypocrisy. He says it calmly, but the point is sharp. After 50 years of watching powerful people try to explain the gap between their words and their actions, he is not impressed by careful wording. His argument is straightforward. To him, it does not matter whether the children's faces are fully shown. What matters is that the images are still being used to support Meghan's public brand, while she is also warning everyone else to be careful about putting children online. Hiding faces does not change the basic issue. In his view, it is not a real defense. It is just an excuse. Duncan Larcombe, separately and without any coordination, uses the very same phrase, rank hypocrisy. Two men with different careers, different viewpoints, and different relationships to the royal story reached the same conclusion on their own.
Got a lot of criticism from a lot of former soldiers, and some of whom that served with Harry. It's not...
That is not the kind of agreement you can wave away with a press statement. But Arbiter's criticism goes beyond hypocrisy. At the center of it is a long-standing royal rule he knows well: never explain. The idea is simple but powerful. Once you answer every criticism, you give it importance. You show it can affect you. And once that happens, the questions keep coming. The late Queen did not send spokespeople out to defend her choices. She held that line for 70 years, and it gave her a level of authority no media strategy could fake. Meghan does the opposite. Nearly every criticism gets a response. Every damaging story gets a counter-argument. In this case, the defense was so detailed, so carefully built, and so finely worded that it backfired. Instead of ending the story, it kept it alive. It gave critics more to discuss and more to question. In plain terms, it was a poor way to handle a public relations problem. What makes it worse is that Meghan, with her media experience and public image skills, should have known that. If you were caught in a real contradiction, explaining it usually only makes people look harder at it. If she truly believed she had found the right balance between sharing and protecting, she would not have needed a carefully prepared statement to prove it. She would have simply lived by it. The fact that an explanation was needed suggests the contradiction was understood all along.
Desiring to be seen as a voice for the campaign against social media.
Then, just hours after that statement was published, Meghan posted Lilibet's birthday photo. In public and in real time, the defense fell apart. But Arbiter says that is only the surface. He argues the deeper issue is more deliberate, more organized, and more troubling than one poorly timed Instagram post. This is where his claims become far more serious. His point is not that a mother made a few imperfect choices in the difficult reality of modern parenting. He says this is a system, a carefully built commercial structure, and that the children are not on the edges of it. They are central to it. He starts with what he sees as the clearest sign. Meghan and Harry control their children's digital identities, not just casually, but formally. They own the domain names, the email addresses, and the online identities linked to a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old who are far too young to understand contracts, intellectual property, or consent. Arbiter's view is that these identities have been set up, organized, and held as assets by the very adults meant to protect them. He then points to the Archewell Foundation, later rebranded as Archewell Philanthropies. The public explanation for that change was that it was a family matter and that their children could be involved. Arbiter sees that as deeply revealing. In his view, 2 very young children were used as part of the justification for reshaping a commercial philanthropic operation. Put simply, his argument is that the children's names, presence, and royal titles are being used to support and legitimize a business structure they are too young to even understand. And he says it goes further than that.
To commercialize her children, to pimp them out for financial gain. And I'm not...
At one point, Meghan's Instagram included a shopping feature that let followers buy clothes Archie and Lilibet had been seen wearing. Meghan received a share of those sales. In the clearest possible sense, the children were being tied to direct commercial profit. The feature was later removed quietly after backlash, but Arbiter's point is that the idea behind it had already been exposed. He also points to the as-ever brand jams, preserves, and honey presented with the clear image of being lovingly made in Meghan's Montecito kitchen. In that content, the children appear around the edges, helping create a warm, polished picture of family life, California ease, and personal authenticity. Arbiter argues they are not just background details. They are what gives the campaign its emotional pull. Without them, much of the charm and personal connection disappears. Then there is the candle carrying the names Archie and Lilibet. Arbiter's argument is simple. These are children aged 7 and 5 who cannot understand contracts, branding, or what it means to have their names attached to products sold for profit. But their names have value, and so do their royal titles.
Treating her children incredibly odd, prisoners in a castle in Montecito. Yeah, it's all...
Arbiter says none of this was accidental. In his view, it was planned and intentional. His harshest judgment is clear. Meghan does nothing publicly unless there is something to gain from it. Applied to motherhood, that claim is serious. If every public move carries a business purpose, then the birthday posts, the kitchen scenes, and the small glimpses of the children are not just personal moments. They become part of a larger brand strategy. The warmth is not simply there by chance. It becomes part of what is being sold. Arbiter's strongest word is not calculated. It is ruthless. He says this is not carelessness or bad judgment. It is a fully aware and deliberate approach. He argues the same pattern was used with Harry, who gave up his family, his country, his military career, and much of the identity he once had. He says the same thing happened with the royal family, who welcomed Meghan warmly, only to later see that turned against them through interviews and a memoir that caused lasting damage. For Arbiter, this is the key point. These are not separate mistakes. They form a repeated pattern. And once you see that pattern over time, he says, it becomes very hard to ignore.
Much notice of what Harry says.
As I asked Duncan, do you agree with Dickie? Or
Arbiter says the pattern becomes clear when one thing keeps happening over and over. Whenever Meghan's projects lose momentum, the children start appearing more. When the podcast lost attention, the children appeared. When the Netflix series got mixed reviews, the children appeared. When the As Ever brand reportedly launched to disappointing sales, the children appeared again, placed inside the carefully styled Montecito kitchen setting, surrounded by the soft, polished family image that helps sell the brand. Arbiter argues this has happened too often and too consistently to dismiss. The more her other projects struggle, the more the children seem to carry the emotional and commercial weight in her public image. In his view, calling that coincidence now asks people to ignore a pattern that is becoming harder and harder to deny. He puts the commercial reality in blunt terms. Without Harry, Meghan is a former actress from a canceled legal drama. With Harry, she has something far bigger, a direct connection to the most famous royal family in the world. And Arbiter believes she has no intention of letting that connection lose its value.
A day before Meghan Markle releases a new
dear.
image of Lily, but Meghan Markle, a defense.
In this context, Archie and Lilibet are not being presented as just Meghan's children. Archie is seventh in line to the throne. Lilibet carries the late queen's name. Together, they keep the royal link visible. They signal that the marriage still stands. The connection to the monarchy still matters, and the fairy tale image is not fully gone. Every photo of them keeps that story alive, and as long as that story lives, it holds commercial value. Duncan Larcombe puts it bluntly, as Meghan's influence faded and public interest in her and Harry weakened, it was always likely the focus would shift to the children. In that view, Archie and Lilibet became the last major card left to play. In harsh commercial terms, people watching closely now argue they are her most valuable asset, and that she knows it. That leads to the hardest question in this story. When does a parent's love start being used like a branding tool? Those are not the same thing, and the gap between them is where the story becomes most troubling. There is one version of this story that treats Harry as a passive figure, a man pulled along by forces bigger than him and trapped in a narrative he no longer controls. There is some truth in that, but not all of it. Harry wrote a memoir. He told his story publicly in his own words, with full control over what was said. And the story he chose to tell was the story of a man who wanted to break free.
Family bears all. The latest interview with Harry airs tonight on CBS. And this morning, Harry himself...
He said he wanted freedom from intrusion, from constant scrutiny, from a life lived under cameras since childhood. He built his public identity around the pain of unwanted attention and the basic right to live without being watched all the time. Those were his own words. He wrote them, published them, and promoted them around the world. Now he is married to a woman whose main public platform is Instagram, where image, content, and carefully managed storytelling shape daily life. The gap between what Harry said he wanted and what his life looks like now is impossible to miss. Anyone who remembers the man who wrote Spare can see how different he appears in the world built around his wife's public brand. He sees the posts, the birthday photos, the kitchen scenes, the as-ever content, and even products tied to his children's names. He is 41 years old. He has agency. And he has not stopped any of it. That silence matters. Whether it comes from agreement, persuasion, or simply giving up on fights he cannot win, it still makes him part of it. And people watching closely say the strain is starting to show. He has been seen alone at a polo field, and he was absent from a dinner for José Andrés, someone Meghan would normally be expected to support, given how strongly she has tied her public image to food, cooking, and the meaning she attaches to sharing it.
Quite frankly, Meghan needs to grow up, and I'm sorry to say this on a family.
Those absences start to add up. Over time, they begin to suggest two people whose lives may be slowly moving in different directions, even if neither is ready to admit it publicly. Duncan Larcombe's view of Harry may be the sharpest point in this whole discussion. Meghan is living her dream, while Harry is living his nightmare. It is a painful way of describing the gap between what each of them seems to have wanted from this life together. Harry grew up as the spare, always behind his brother, shaped by what he was not instead of who he was. And, after the memoir, the interviews, and all his public talk about freedom, identity, and wanting to be fully seen, he seems to have ended up in that role again. This time not inside the royal family, but inside his own marriage, as the figure whose royal status gives everything around him more value, more attention, and more commercial power. Every photo of those children also reminds the world that Harry is still part of this story, and that makes those images worth something. What gets lost in all the debate about branding, Instagram, and public image is that Archie and Lilibet are real children. They are growing up with real questions about real family members who should be part of their lives, but mostly are not.
If you genuinely wish to keep your children out of the public eye, why include them? in any promotional material at all.
They will have questions about grandparents, cousins, and a country they barely know, but that is built into their names, titles, and the identity being shaped for them by adults. Their grandfather is the king, yet they rarely see him. Their cousins, George, Charlotte, and Louis, are tied to them by blood, but not by the everyday experiences that create real closeness between children, shared routines, family meals, ordinary time together. Archie and Lilibet do not have that, and that absence did not happen by chance. It comes from adult choices made for children who had no say in them. People close to King Charles describe that absence as a real personal sadness for him. He has faced serious health problems with quiet dignity and, despite the interviews, the memoir, and the damage done over the years, he has not stopped loving his son. He has not stopped holding on to the hope that what has been broken can still be repaired. But repair cannot come from one side alone. It takes effort from both sides, and above all, it takes honesty. That becomes very hard when there is also a business operation still drawing value from the royal connection that was publicly rejected. You cannot keep benefiting from the crown while also claiming to have left it behind.
According to reports, Prince Harry and King Charles recently reunited for the first time in 19 months.
The palace understands that difference, even if it never says so publicly. William understands it too, and likely saw it earlier than most. He raised concerns early and has spent years watching them prove true. There's no satisfaction in that because the people affected are not distant figures. They are his brother, his niece, and nephew, and the institution he has spent his life preparing to protect and serve. The contrast between Charles and William says a lot. Charles still holds on to the hope of repair and keeps reaching for it no matter what comes back. William is more cautious and more realistic about what can be fixed and what he can honestly expect. Same loss, two very different responses. And at the center of it all are two young children in California, too young to understand any of this. Archie is 7. Lilibet has just turned 5. By most credible accounts, they are happy, curious, loved, and growing up in a life many would envy. For now, they are mostly shielded from the larger story around them. They do not know their names have been registered as digital assets. They do not know what a domain name is, or what it means to have their names used on products sold for profit. They are simply children, still unaware of the public debate surrounding their lives. But Arbiter's point is that they will not stay unaware forever, and that is what he wants people to think about most seriously.
Because Harry didn't have it confirmed whether he was going to get police protection. And so his team were waiting.
Sooner than the adults around them may expect, Archie and Lilibet will be old enough to search their own names and see what the internet has kept from their early years. They will find the candles, websites, shopping features, and even the clothes they wore being used to make money. They will see posts shared around product launches and image repair moments, public statements from spokespeople, and the Arkle rebrand explained through their involvement at ages when they could not have understood any of it. All of it will still be there, easy to find. When they are old enough to read the arguments, look at the photos, and fully grasp what was done in their names while they were too young to question it, their response will depend on the kind of love and trust they grew up with. If that love was real, steady, and free from ambition, they may see it as flawed parenting and work through it. But if they have long felt that something was off, this discovery will not feel like a mistake. It will feel like proof of what they sensed all along. And that leads to a far harder conversation with a parent. One no public statement can soften. Duncan Larcombe believes that when that day comes, the children will clearly see the manipulation and confront their mother about it.
And suggests that it would be lovely if the king would invite Harry and the whole family to Sandringham in July.
She is trying to sell an image built on manipulation, and that is what people struggle to forgive once they see it clearly. Arbiter's conclusion is not harsh. It comes from someone who has spent 50 years watching people either honor great privilege or waste it. What he sees here, post by post, product by product, child by child, is not success. It is a painful loss of what could have been. He believes she wants to be everything in number one, but says the public has seen through it for a long time. The royal standard has always been simple. Use the title with honesty, or give it back. And two young children, aged 7 and 5, deserve adults who protect them, not manage them or profit from them. We have seen the pattern clearly: the Geneva speech, the Instagram posts that followed, the commercial strategy Arbiter described, The repeated timing that no longer looks accidental, the silent husband, the grieving king across the ocean, and the family kept at a distance. At the heart of it are two children who are too young to know their names have become assets and too young to understand what is being built around them. The choices being made for them now cannot be undone. But the family ties being kept from them, their grandfather, their cousins, and their heritage, are not beyond repair yet. Dickie Arbiter spoke not to attack, but because staying silent would make him part of it. The question now is whether Archie and Lilibet will one day face what was done in their names and whether this family can still be saved when that day comes. Share your thoughts in the comments below and join the discussion because this is a story that continues to spark strong opinions. If you found this video thought-provoking, give it a like. It only takes a moment and helps more people discover it. Share it with someone who has been following the royal family, as this update connects many of the key developments. And if you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to do so because we bring you in-depth coverage every day with more updates still to come.